سبحان فالق الإصباح.
Y'all, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of Light the Fuse right here on hackerhamin.podbean.com. I'm one third of this trio. I'm the man who's holding the bags, and that's just fine with me. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Our supreme leader, who's still on vacation. No, he is Ben Dewar.
Y'all, man. It's Benny ready with the 1-2 checker. Silla's in effect, but MSG is the wrecker, infidels. We're here to wreck this show. There's some really good stuff in it, but there's a couple things that had me rolling my eyes. And then possibly the biggest shot fired in wrestling in the last 20 years. On your Light the Fuse. Sill, how you doing this morning, pal?
Fantastic. That's right. You are on vacation.
I'm probably not too far from your location.
Yeah, we got to link up, man.
Hey.
I wrote something down in my notes that I pointed out. This is the spot where Hamin loses it, so let's see if I'm correct.
Okay. All right.
All right. Well,
and if it is, I lost it, dude.
Well, I think I know you pretty well.
I know.
Well, let's kind of get started here. We don't want to keep Mr. Hamin too much. As we mentioned, he's on vacation, and wife, whatever number, might come in and pull him away.
They're all been constantly yelling all day.
Well, let's start with one of the biggest news items in wrestling here over the last couple of days. I'm sure it was covered on the locker room, but we could talk about it here as well. Alberto Del Rio.
Screw wrestling. We'll get to Del Rio's stupid ass coked up doing dumb shit in a minute.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
You can go to @bin_Hamin right now and check out a bunch of retweets. Still, I don't think I'm not sure if you checked in the chat that I sent to us, but possibly 12 hours ago, Brazil, 2 helicopters downed a UFO in the mountains, and there's footage from the last 3 days of people shooting from the ground, discs at night in the air, and not just like blue lights, like everything that we've been taught of, like to look for, like inside circle moving the other way, like very clear footage. So UFOs over Rio de Janeiro from the 10th through the 13th. Last night, 12 hours ago, they down one. There's people in their car with the showing like smoke coming out of the trees in the mountains. Supposedly somebody got through there before the military. There's another video of an orb on the ground. Looks just like something out of video game sci-fi. Now, as a media guy, this all could be whatever, but we've seen 13 million UFO or declassified CIA documents. The Pentagon saying here's UFO footage from 2014 and 2015 just in the past month. And now here we are with a possible down UFO within the last 12 hours. Fuck wrestling. Let's talk the real right here, man. What are you thinking?
When you say downed, as in like it's been shot down, or it crashed?
It was said it was downed by it, so it looks like a crash because there's smoke and whatnot coming out of it. I'll see if I can bring it up just real quick here on my cam for you.
Hey,
so here's. I mean, you see it. So they're doing that. That's just when it's in the sky from the nights before. But here is.
Hold your phone back a little bit further. There you go.
Right here's the orb, and here's a bunch of fire and smoke trail.
Do you remember playing that game Vector Man for Genesis, Silvio? Did you ever play that game?
I played Genesis, not that one though.
Gotcha.
I played the cool game.
I was going to say the orbs. Shut up. That was a great game. I was going to say the orbs that he's talking about. That's what I was going to refer to.
This is from this morning when the sun came up. They're far out. So there's more videos in the threads there. You can just go click on it. It's tough to see on the phone via camera, but if you had your naked eye, you can see the wheel within the wheel within the wheel, which, as the atheist Hitchens level in the Hamin Media Group, I think of that old parable in the Bible. Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air, And had to sing these gospel things when I was doing choir, and I'll bury myself. Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air. Ezekiel saw the wheel way up in the middle of the air. And the guy's part underneath goes, wheel in a wheel in a wheel in a wheel in a wheel. So wheel in a wheel in a wheel. And that's exactly what's being seen here, dude. So as much as I refute church and whatnot, there's plenty, whether it's Planet X, Wormwood, the Destroyer, and talking about ancient Sumerian texts and the possible return of the Anunnaki. We had an occult moon the other night, which Sal will tell you occult just means hidden. But a lot of strange things, a worm moon. Why do we have a worm moon? I don't remember these from my childhood. Wormwood, these biblical terms for things that relate to ancient alien theory and technology man writing down wheel within a wheel. What did Ezekiel saw? Ezekiel came back shitting his pants. He looked up in the sky and saw a UFO that was a wheel within a wheel. And here we are on Twitter 12 hours ago with that same thing.
Man, I've believed in the presence of, extraterrestrial life and UFOs for years. And we're stupid to think that it's not the case because we're one tiny planet, right? We're idiots if we think there's not other life.
We're aliens. We're alien life.
Right. However, I'm going to jump on the Hamin train here, and I'm going to be a conspiracy horse man.
Yes.
Look at it this way, man. Right now, the world is all shaken up, going through something, and a lot of people here in America are speculating that the whole worldwide corona stuff is by American Bill Gates run, right? So who's to say if the whole world's in on that act, who's to say that this isn't just a distraction from that? There's a reason why they release those documents now.
Yeah,
maybe they're putting this out to take the heat off a politician here. Boris in the UK is getting tons of heat. Trump's getting tons of heat. Biden's getting tons of heat. So maybe they're planting a little seed. We know the government has aircrafts that look like UFOs, and it's been told and proven that they've flown some, and a lot of the sightings were test flights. So it could be real, and I hope it is, but I think it very well might be just something planted there, man, to get our minds off of it and get our minds off of dynamite.
I cannot wait to see you get your shit in on some aliens. Like, if you're going to come back from concussion for anybody, it's for the big alien high spot, and I'll be right there, baby.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, big Saudi money. It's crazy, man. I love this stuff, but I love that you went down that way, Sil. What if they have been knowing, and these slow play, and even coronavirus is the front, Bill Gates is the front for it, and it's early adoption for martial law, because these motherfuckers do land the mothership at Yankee Stadium. Every Nancy Brown and every Jim Smith asshole is going to be wanting a Bradley and a fucking M16 on their front fucking lawn, you know what I mean, to make sure they're not getting anal probed Cartman style. Boom, look how I fucking cross it over.
Yeah, if that's the case, our government is way smarter than we think they are.
Well, I think they're just deep staters who know. If you go into shows like The Ranch or Skinwalker Ranch, where now it's bullshit show, but when Robert Bigelow owned it, billionaire Robert Bigelow, who's got tons of patents that are completely secret on supposed alien technology, he says, why do you think that they're coming? They're here. We've been working with them. They know. You look at the Prime Minister, Defense Minister Paul Hellier's stooge report, even from more than a decade ago in Canada, where he talks about them flying over nuclear missile silos and everything shuts down. Just whoop, lights out, like so far advanced. And even he says we've been working steadily in the U.S. and Canada with over 7 different types of races of aliens for multiple decades. You can look back into, I think it's Victor Tor or something. He was embedded during JFK and Nixon White House. You can see a guy who's very alien looking that may have been an advisor, one of the tall Nordic looking ones people say he might have been. So combine that with the Gaia Stooge at Corey Good and the avian aliens that are supposedly on the moon, new moon footage with shit happening on the top and on the bottom. We got to be here, bros. We got to be here finally.
Well, man, you know that, like, when you're talking about the government, you know there's things they don't tell us that they should. but there's also things that they can't tell us for the better good of society. If they were to tell us certain things, especially in America where half of us are fucking lunatics, we'd be going crazy. So, I mean, you very well could be right, man. They may be onto something, but even if they were, the population, the masses definitely couldn't handle it. So maybe they're easing us in. I don't know.
To me, when I rib about being the Planet X division champion, it's obviously to sprinkle both in wrestling and get the satire in. And being the atheist and still looking at the Bible as a roadmap and timeline, why would it rain for 40 days and 40 nights when it never has done that ever? That's a polar shift. The planet wobbles and some fucking thing that you've never seen, lightning tornadoes coming at your ass or whatever it is going to happen. Why does that happen? Because Planet X is on a 3,600-year loop of an oblong thing that actually goes out around and it explains a lot of why our universe and what we haven't been able to see based on our technology limitations or what tribal man has told us, early man off of it. And you look at, why is Atlantis gone? There was an Atlantis that was why would that happen? Some massive cataclysm. Well, that's when a huge planet comes by and fucks up your gravitational pull and does all that. Now, whether it's Anunnaki and the pyramids, and you can go to the King Tut story and a bunch of things there with the knife that he was found with being from outer space, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, and even the avian alien paintings and the pharaoh dog man on the wall, that, all that shit. Either representative or whatever, when man may have been made in ancient alien theory, Sumerian text, us being biologically engineered from primates to be a slave society for them. And also warners of wormwood. Maybe the Anunnaki aren't just slave masters. Maybe they are protectors. And they're out in front of this thing, and they're coming to either warn, depopulate, see where we are as a society now. Maybe we were built up to this in Atlantis times at one time, and it all went away again. But all this stooge report coming out in the last month, and now this, dude, the something massive must be said and occurring even bigger, because what are people worried about? Stevie talked about this. You'll hear it on the Friday Locker Room. Where's my toilet paper? Ancient aliens laying on your front lawn, you're shitting your fucking pants, but you're worried about what you got to wipe your ass with more than what's actually going on in front of your face.
Let me ask you this, my last question on it, and then I want to hear Matt's take on it. The documents were declassified. Nobody's talking about it. I've been on social, I don't want to say nobody, but the masses aren't, right?
Right.
I've been on social media 3 times today. I didn't check that message you sent, but I haven't seen it once. So why is this not public knowledge? Why isn't everyone speaking about it?
Because 5 companies own all of mainstream media. That's why. And they're all state controlled. It's the illusion of choice, where 5 companies own it. So of one of those companies, they have 60 different brands that trickle down, and you think they're competing, but they're all pushing the same narrative, or they're all keeping things tight-lipped, because that's the way it goes, man.
Yeah,
go ahead, Maddie.
I was going to say, I agree. They have their hand in the cookie jar on both ends, right? You're going to deliver the Nancy Brown type news to the mainstream media, but then you're going to go back online and be like, check out the UFOs, right? Because you think you can bait that side as well against the common man or common woman. So I think there's a lot of them playing both sides of it as far as the aliens. I think it's there. I mean, I've always believed aliens exist. I've always been under the impression, like, please take me. Actually, like, sometimes I just want to be out. I'm outside yelling, just beam me up. Like, I'm ready to go.
You're right on it, Matt, with the double-sided. You really want to talk about who was on the forefront of this and free speech is Tyler from Secure Team 10. On YouTube, built a massive channel. And we know YouTube is complete state-owned censorship Nazi media. So they give Tyler the big gold button or platinum button because of all the work he's done, where Tyler doesn't have a ton of shit. He's just like the port where people send him things, and he links up. Oh, we've seen this UFO in 2012. Here it is in 2013 in Spain, but we saw it over here in Italy, and then in Mexico in 2016. That's all Tyler did. And Tyler was set up, drugged, put out, arrested, and marginalized. And now he has a lot more mental issues because of it, because of the paranoia. And you don't see Tyler in the news feed of any conspiracy people anymore. Like, they fucking built him up to unperson him when he was putting together some of the most compelling arguments and alien stuff and leading the way for him. So you could argue from the beginning, was there even a Tyler? Was it all a CIA op or what have you? Because he never really appeared on camera, and it's an easy way to get rid of him off of that. But that's playing both sides of, we'll build it up for the one, and then the conspiracy will take them right out if they fly too close to the sun.
Well, you brought up about YouTube. We actually got a message from somebody on our Hamin Media Group Twitter account, and the guy said, "Hey, if I can make a recommendation, you guys should use BitChute. My brother owns it." So that he wanted me to pass that along to you. I mean, I'll link you up with him afterwards.
I really do enjoy BitChute. A lot of another thing that got sent to me the other day off BitChute, somebody it looked to me to be as real as could be. It's the Pentagon footage getting hit by a missile. No plane whatsoever. No frame 223 to 237 missing. You see it strike. It's from a farther away spot. The flash of light comes in. It's a cruise missile with the small wings on the side, and the explosion out the back. That's a perfect hole, like any missile shot, which is also very similar to Oklahoma City's forensics and how things happen on the back end of that too. So.
I mean, you want to hear something funny?
Please.
When I wrote down that line about you being hot at the segment, I put, unless he's off watching a 9/11 conspiracy, Hamin is blowing a gasket right now. Watching a 9/11.
I love you, buddy. You know me so well, man. Let's do it. Light the fuse, boys. We got to fucking blow a gasket on this show.
All right, well, let's get some of the news items I sent over to you guys. First thing here, Alberto Del Rio, former WWE star Alberto Del Rio, real name Jose Rodriguez, allegedly struck, choked, and raped a woman earlier this month in San Antonio, Texas, per police report. TMZ obtained a copy of the report, which describes an attack on the sexual assault that took place over 14 hours on May 3rd and May 4th. We don't need to go more into the depths of what it was, but the report also then surfaced that Vince McMahon has been notified of the situation and has banned Alberto Del Rio from the company itself. So, Chris Silvio, being the veteran that you are, have you had any experiences over the course of your career with Mr. Alberto Del Rio, or know of anyone?
I do, actually. I have personal experience. So first time I met Del Rio was backstage at Impact when he was there, and he had Paige with him. And it just struck me really weird. I had met Paige prior to this, and I said hello to her there. And if you've ever met her, she's a real sweet, kind, awesome human being. And it just struck me weird because she was very quiet. She was polite. But what she would do is they would walk in late. Like, they wouldn't come in earlier during setup. It'd be like an hour before Del Rio's main event. And they would go to like a corner of the building, and Paige would stay in that one spot until Del Rio returned from his match. Like, wouldn't talk to any of the boys or anything. You could clearly tell was under instruction. A few months after that, I'm touring England, and I go to work for WAW. They have a TV taping. That's her parents' company. Del Rio was on the card, oddly enough, working her father, Paige's dad, in like a street fight. And there was a guy there that had known the family, that they've been running for years and years. And like, it's a real tight-knit community. I mean, it's kind of similar to OVW, where it becomes almost like a family. People known each other for years. So this dude, Paige, had said hello to one of the boys at the bar that like trained with the family, and the bar's in the venue, right? Well, Del Rio gets convinced that this guy is exchanging like secret texts, like under the table texts with Paige for some reason, like right then and there in the middle of the show. So he goes up to the guy and he demands that he gives him his phone so he can look at it. And the guy's like, "What the fuck? I'm not going to give you my phone." He makes a case until he actually does get his phone, scrolls right then and there in the venue through the guy's stuff, sees that there are no secret texts. That's my personal experiences with Del Rio. So I believe it.
Sounds very possessive. Sounds like some tendencies that might show of a sexual predator, as far as, the type of mental gymnastics that they employ upon these women or men that sexual predators do itself. Ben, your thoughts? I mean, I don't know if you've directly worked with Alberto Del Rio, but I think
I haven't.
Okay.
I know a psychopathic cocaine addict when I see one, and I know a girl who's hooked on drugs by that, who is being pimped out. That shit's old as time. Go read Iceberg Slim. That's that's all you got to do to see who this guy is and what he is. He's a pimp. He preys on younger, weak-minded girls, whatever, and he thinks he can strong-arm people, whatever. And he probably has Mexican mafia connections because you don't fucking get over down there without having them. And that further emboldens him to act a certain way. And when he's stateside or wherever. But then when he's over there being a worker, that just solidifies. If you're already a slimy scumbag, that a lot of people get rewarded for that in this business. And unfortunately, that leads to Chris Benoit situations. And you're on the precipice of one of these right here. Whether it's him, whether it's Teddy Hart, it's going to happen. Because until they're locked, hopefully nobody dies at their hands, but they need to be locked up and put through treatment programs and put away to be humbled because they think they're untouchable based on where they came from, who's behind them, and what their namesake is.
I was going to lead down that road and ask you if you see any parallels between him and Teddy Hart, which you clearly
it's right there, isn't it?
And
you see it. You see the inability of them to actually be men, believe in themselves. You would have to scroll through a guy's phone at a fucking show because you're worried about your side piece of pussy that you left your wife and kids for because you're on some whirlwind coke bender and she's also under contracts. You think it'd be fucking cute to put her under a lucha mask and sit her at ringside, not because you're trying to do any wire back and forth, because you're truly that paranoid that you can't have her out of your sight in some Miss Elizabeth Macho Man locker in the fucking closet kind of way. So go ahead.
Did you know that Teddy Hart publicly stated that his ex-wife of like 20 years, owned an escort agency as well?
I knew they were running girls. I didn't know he had publicly
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dude, I mean, the people don't know how big that Canada mob really is, bro. That Montreal reach to Toronto is they're all doing some crazy shit. We love Trailer Park Boys and all that, and the running cigarettes and all that kind of shit.
Cigarettes.
Cigarettes. Go watch that Dino Bravo Dark Side of the Ring, and you'll find out just a little snippet of the real deal of how they're running shit up there, bro. So, and that's over some cigarettes. Over some real shit, you'll get clipped twice as fast. So, the reality is I'm glad this woman is alive to survive it. I think this guy needs 5 years minimum, to be honest with you, to even get close to fucking straightening him out. And I don't think any place, if you're going to come down on your Ellsworths and your Elgins and all that shit and do your SJW, this guy never should be booked above the fucking border again. Second part to that story is he threatened to take her kid out to the fucking desert and just leave him in the fucking shit like that. So, when it comes to Hacker and fucking anything that deals with pedogate or endangering children, guess what, bro? I got a fucking 12-foot section of rope for you, and I'll put you right on the back of the four-wheeler, and I'll fucking drive you right out to the woods, and that'll be it for you, pal. The hole's already been dug. The lime's already in the motherfucking pit. Just say the word.
To wrap this up, what I was going to play on that, you're talking about Del Rio getting booked. I was going to say he's probably going to still continue to get booked, right, in Mexico or internationally or anything not in the United States.
That's fucking Mexican mob running fucking shows, and what are you going to do to combat that, bro? Whatever. If that's the rest of what he's got to do for his life to deal with those psychopaths, then he painted himself into that, and chances are, does that story ever work out well? What usually happens when you're involved with that shit at the end?
It ends up being a documentary somewhere on HBO.
No, it ends up with you dead in the fucking car with 15 shots in your fucking torso because you owed somebody money and you got in deep and it fucking did it. And that is the exact end of the fucking road that he's headed down right now, dude. Every bit of behavior the last 5 years points to that. And Vince being a mark for him, to be honest with you, I never fucking thought him doing a Mexican JBL got over at all, to be honest with you. Can he wrestle? Hell yeah. No doubt about that. But I'm a 42-year-old man and selling for guys with lack of character just because they held a phony fucking title. Those days are long over for old Hacker.
Well, speaking of those days being long over, it looks like XFL, we've got some more updates here, guys. The newly disclosed affidavit from Oliver Luck further addresses McMahon's claims. So to go through everything here, here's just the breakdown as far as the 3 reasons for firing Luck. 1, Luck left the FXL's Connecticut headquarters for his home in Indiana on March 13th and disengaged from XFL operations. According to the filing, McMahon further claims Luck did not inform of his intentions. Put simply, at the very moment when his leadership as CEO was needed most, Luck did not devote substantially all of his business time to the XFL. Now, he refutes that by saying during this time I communicated with McMahon via text messages, as McMahon preferred that method of communication, and that Mr. McMahon was well aware of my efforts as evidenced by his responses to said text message. Moving on, we also had Luck sign Callaway, a former Browns wide receiver, to a draft contract of $125,000. I guess he had a bad pass when it came to the law, and that's, kind of what contrary to what Mr. McMahon wanted to hire when it came to his athletes. Mr. McMahon apparently said to fire him. He did not. And the last one, which was stupid, Luck used his legal issued iPhone for personal matters. That's what they say he is. Silvio, we can start with you. What do you think about all this breakdown here? Because Oliver Luck apparently was he's seeking $28.3 million.
So Luck went home on March 13th.
Correct.
Didn't the XFL announce they were shutting down on March 9th?
I think it was actually 4 days later. I think it was the 17th.
I don't know about that, man. I'll double check that while we're going, but it sounds to me like it was prior to that. So if that was the case, then it's a bullshit claim. But, man, you know how Vince and Jerry McDevitt are, man. They're going to fight that shit. And to be honest, I think he probably deserves something, but I don't think Luck will get a red cent.
I was going to also point out that I thought this was interesting that Vince McMahon, it looks like he hired Oliver Luck. That's what I'm gathering. It wasn't Alpha Entertainment because the suit is against Vince McMahon, not Alpha. Am I correct in assuming that? He
did hire him, and he promised him, because he was leaving a prominent position elsewhere, and he was promising him like a guaranteed money for a certain amount of time, no matter what happens.
Well, I just meant it's interesting that he actually that's a smart business move, right? You can see a little bit. He protected Alpha Entertainment, right? They're not getting sued. It's more or less Vince McMahon. Ben, what are your thoughts? I mean, I know you probably went over a little bit in the locker room, but
no, tell it like it is. I mean, the fact of Vince lost $350 million the day before, or him as an investor, and then here's this sitting with another $28 million payday, really $20 million, I think it was, but maybe he wants damages. They got to come up with any excuse to further it down the road so the lawyers can play it out. This is just the ping pong back and forth. I got to agree with Sil. I think he's going to end up wiping his ass with his hand at the end of the day, because that's what Vince can afford to do, is have a team of 26 lawyers wear you the fuck out, so it costs you more just to give up at the end. Vince and them are in the wrong. They're shady workers. They're going to find some little discrepancy. I don't give a shit if it's the Eric Bischoff shut his phone off at 7 o'clock excuse or not. But, even the fact of, he used his phone for personal use. Well, you want to know where that comes from? That's when Dave Lagana was the stooge for the Y2J shit and was leaking it to the sheets to Alvarez and them. And then Steph and all of them were losing their fucking mind. Made everybody get secure laptops and phones so they can big brother and check. And then even at NXT, there's hidden microphones and cameras and shit so they can check in remotely and see what's going on behind the scenes. They're that paranoid, almost on a Del Rio psychopathic level. And they're going to use, so they can go through, oh, look, he called somebody. Oh, it's unstable. But he called somebody, and now we can use that against him because that's policy, whatever that we put in there, where at the end of the day, we can fucking use that to sweep your legs out from underneath you as a catch-22. They know it. You're dealing with top-level scumbags, so they're set up to never lose by any little excuse. And that's what attorneys and courts of law are for, to argue it down to the most minute little excuse, so the scumbags can stay on top and keep doing what they're doing. Because $18.5 million to the president's super PAC means we can. That's why.
Hey, Silvio, did they have the mics? Did they have the bathroom mic at the Performance Center? Can you stooge that off?
They might have. I don't know.
Okay.
Hey, to correct that timeline, it was March 12th that they shut down operations due to Corona.
Okay.
And it was April 10th that they filed for bankruptcy. So I had March and April mixed up, but they did shut down play on March 12th, and he went home on March 13th.
Yep. So, I mean, that's when you're thinking is shut down. Why are you going to hang out in an empty office?
Well, let's all talk about that too. And the fact of why. Like, sure, maybe he didn't want to go home, but he's not leading the forefront. If you think back to that time, it was all corporate. What are they doing? Because the wife started to come home from get wife and have to work at home, unfortunately. But get wife wasn't going to make a move until they saw what fucking Progressive was doing and what they were doing. And XFL is going to do the same thing, waiting to see what NBA is going to do, and NFL and MLB are going to do. And it's March Madness. They cancel March Madness, bro. We got to cancel XFL. So they might just say that little shit, but in the timeline and the scope of it and how it's set up, XFL is just waiting to, especially Vince, we can stay in the game. Everybody else is going out. We'll play, God damn it. And that's what was in his mind for real. And now he's going to use that loop back to look like he's a higher moral authority and being like, we needed him in a time where we didn't know what was going on whatsoever. And he wasn't there for us. That's not how they operate at all, dude. And everybody knows that. But when it's not in front of a jury of your peers, which this litigation never will be, it comes down to those fine details. He used his phone for a personal call to his grandma on her birthday. Fuck it, nothing. He can get nothing, bro. That's what it'll be.
All right. Well, we can skip this story I had here. Wanted to kind of get your idea on the evolution of wrestling, but I do want to go over this one fun fact thing here, a fun story before we start. Dark Side of the Ring, guys, they're going to be revisiting some new stories, and this is all comedy, by the way. Dark Side of the Ring revisits tragic tale of baby punted by Snitsky. For fans of the professional sports entertainment, having been watching this Vice Dark Side of the Ring, narrator Mick Foley invokes a somber tone as the episode begins. In the late 2004, the larger-than-life spectacle of WWE became all too real for 6-week-old Tommy Dumas Jacobs, as Gene Snitsky punted him into the audience, and of course since has denied any fault for the incident. Now, other episodes of the Dark Side of the Ring fans can expect on this upcoming season is the McMahon limo tragedy. It was Vince all along. The untold story of the Great Khali and the Great WWE Hall of Fame fire of 2015. They're also going to be doing a new spin-off show called Dark Side of the Ring, which will reveal the seedy underbelly and untold stories of the wrestling documentary on their Wednesday night lineup they're calling Beyond the Mat. So there's some fun stuff there for you guys, trying to lighten the mood here before we move into AEW.
Foley did a good job, too, with Britt Baker, putting over this. He now declares her the best wrestling dentist in the history of wrestling. He's sorry to Kane. And then he puts over that hopefully even she can help it, that Mick Foley smile at the end of the day. So Foley's, endeared to all of us, the hardcore, the comedy, the author, whatever reason you love him for, the multiple characters. But he loves wrestle crap. Mick Foley at heart is a wrestling fan, whether it's him jumping off his roof, like Snuka, to go back like any backyarder, to know his story and to come up sleeping in the car, what have you. He loves this shit when it comes to those undone storylines that become a piece of ever. I talked about this on the Locker Room because Rowan changed his name to Eric Redbeard, which I really like. And he's got a new shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees that really takes a stab at all the bullshit. It's called Recycled. It's got like spider, sheep, genius, like the words on it. I'm like, perfect. That's just sticking it right to him, bro. But I'll always remember that as a babyface, he tried to murder Roman Reigns by flipping the set on him. And then it was a body double that looked just like him when the Stooge report came, and that guy tried to kill Roman Reigns, but nobody ever pursued that guy. So we have an attempted murderer on the loose that looks just like Eric Rowan driving around in a forklift somewhere, ready to kill again. And those are the details that get left undone that a guy like me, a guy like Foley, I love that shit in the lexicon. We got to sit through all the worst stuff, and it shows how bad their writing is when you bring it back as a punchline 16 years later, right? When did he punt the baby? 2004?
Sometime around that, yeah.
Right? It's even funnier now. 20 years from now, if I'm still alive and I make a joke about the forklift operator, Eric Rowan, it's going to be hilarious, dude, because of those shared experiences that we have. So this is good. Good stuff from Mick.
Speaking of Britt Baker, Tony Schiavone disclosed that Lois isn't a fan of the Britt Baker Angle.
No.
She's hot that Tony's working
She's
with.
hot.
Dude,
Dude, I would play right into that. Wouldn't you play right into that?
Tony doesn't give a shit, man. He's cool as the other side of the pillow. He's gonna do whatever they tell him. He's gonna say, "Yep, all right, cool."
No, I would definitely bring her in.
All right. Well, let's get into it, guys, into AEW, the Wednesday Night Wars. Rage on. Let's talk about a little bit the numbers here. Last week, AEW had a total of 732,000 viewers versus NXT's 633,000 viewers. Now, that is up from 693,000 from the week before. Still kind of staggering around that 600 to 750,000 mark. Their key competition remained NXT, The Masked Singer, and some other top cable network shows. AEW's Dynamite YouTube viewers last week, 1.72 million. The most viewed was the challenge accepted by John Moxley, where he says, all you have to do is ask. That got 708,000 views. The least viewed video was the AEW Women's Champion Nyla Rose Doesn't Hold Back. That got 42,000 views with the median viewership of all their videos at about 115,000. So tonight's opening segment features Cody, Lance Archer, and Jake the Snake. It started off with Lance Archer coming out randomly attacking another guy. I love this bit where somebody's walking to the entrance with him and he just kind of chucks them in front of him. So he quickly makes his entrance into the ring. Jake Roberts has gone full. Says, let's see if I can get kind of canceled and heel-ish, if you will. But basically, they wanted him to apologize. They were like, they brought me out here. They wanted me to apologize to Brandy. Well, I'm just not going to do that. So,
he says, I'll apologize when she kisses my ass.
Right, exactly.
This is more high stakes. Obviously, I'm a huge Jake Roberts fan because everything I love his character and promo. For some reason, I look at Jake Roberts, even though he might not body-wise, but mind-wise is a Ferrari in wrestling. I love when he stops himself and he knows the pacing. He came out kind of in fourth gear because they came out hot with the violence. And then he's going through his promo, and I saw him. There's a key turn still. I don't know if you saw this where he goes, I'm going too fast. And then he'll repeat a line and just be like, yeah. And then I'm going to, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And he stops, takes the breaths, and now we're downshifting a second. We're just cruising into it, man. I love to watch his mind shift gears like that from a high to a low. That's really – and he's been doing that since the 80s. That's not anything new, but a lot of performers is still – you coach so many guys – with wrestler voice and just screaming through a promo or not having enough energy. His is a very laser focused and calculated. I really like that promo.
Oh yeah, and you said something about his look, man. I like the way he looks. I don't know if you guys remember when Arn came in. I was like, I like him and Cody as a package, but maybe do something different with his attire. He looks a little too dad-like. Yeah, Jake's just as old, but here's the deal, bro. You can't teach cool. I don't care if Jake's fucking 80. He's going to make it look cool, even if he's in goddamn dad jeans. My favorite thing, though, that Jake the Snake did on this promo is when Cody comes revving up the engine and whatever, Jake kept talking. My least favorite, if I had to choose one promo thing in pro wrestling that WWE does and people drive me fucking bonkers when they do it, is someone's cutting a promo and all of a sudden music or one sound hits and they can't talk and the microphone's down. Jake played it beautifully. He kept trying to talk, kept trying to talk. Then he acknowledged it. What the hell is going on? What is that? Then
it's a real, You'd be warning people to get out of the way, even if you're what the hell? Yeah, absolutely. That pass, like, you talk, I talk. Yeah, that's the factory system, man. He absolutely made it more real. But then they effed it up a little bit. Cody's there in his F-150, like, to drive the length of a driveway to run into some shit that's set up, bro. No, you do the pre-tape where he's hauling ass around the building, and then you just have the truck parked there. You cut to the camera so you can see it turn the corner so it looks like he's doing 90, not 0 to 30 in 40 yards to hit a garbage can, dude. And get that shit out of there, or have people ready to go to have them running so you can see them running while he's coming down so it's a safe stunt spot. The stunt spot just made him look goofy, kind of, man. Of like, and then he pulls in a $70,000 truck and doesn't want to wad that shit. He's like supposed to hit it, and he slows up. So he's like, fuck this. I thought I wanted to fuck my truck up, but this is a brand new whip. I'm not fucking this thing up. So why do it, bro? Why do it? It makes me laugh, that kind of stuff of like, I'm not Triple H, but watch this.
It was a little funny. I got away at the end of this that I'm going to tie all that together. So
Yeah,
I'll save it till then.
So
Love
Jake,
it. If you're a little kid, a 12-year-old or a 36-year-old who acts like a 12-year-old and plays with Pokemon Go still, you probably loved it. So bully for you.
so in that promo, of course, Jake said that anytime someone comes in my ring, it's my house, and you do so at your own risk. A woman is great at home cooking and wiping a baby's butt.
Yeah.
Says that it's time for Cody, and he can't hide behind anyone else. But as he mentioned,
Let's stop there because you did a good job. But there was a line that popped me in there. I didn't write down notes, and I should have. But he goes, because he's like, down in women doing the misogyny thing, which is excellent for his character. But then he goes, but I got a woman who comes over and keeps me warm on a cold night, but I make sure I watch a Lance Archer match to get all fired up first. So he's pretty much saying he hires a hooker, but the only way he can get it up is watching Lance Archer wrestle before he puts it to her and sends her on her way. I was like,
it's for the AEW marks there, Ben. You got to make sure they're happy.
Yeah, dude. Like, I guess, bro, that fucking, like, the undertone, I'm not sure if that's really what he meant to say or the truth of comedy, but that was the very true of probably how he operates.
He's a twisted character. He's a twisted character. He knew what he was saying.
So good. So good.
So after that, as you mentioned, Cody comes out. Him and Archer go back and forth. Archer went for a blackout, but Cody escaped and attempted a Cody cutter. And then kind of Jake interfered on the ramp and was like, it's not worth it right now. Just let it go. So him and Lance Archer retreat as a chicken shit heel does, right? Or as Matt Hardy liked to explain on Being the Elite, he powdered out. I think that would be the term there. And that's how that segment ended. What do you guys think of it as a whole?
I like this seg, but I got a problem right here at the end. What happened last week? Why is Cody this hot?
Because Randy was covered with the snake from Jake the Snake.
And got fucking laid out, right?
Touched her in ways you don't even think about, Cody.
Yeah, you shouldn't be hitting no wrestling moves when you're pissed off. This is a straight Luthez press, bang, 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 pull him off, fuck you, bang, 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 bang. That's what this is. There's no set him up, whoop, I'm gonna get him. No, you don't do that shit here, bro. That's a mistake. That's when people say, gotta get your shit in wrestling. That's it right there.
You know what they could have done too, and maybe they didn't have to, maybe not necessarily his specific animal, but he could have gotten a lookalike like Pharaoh and brought his dog out and maybe have him barking at Jake the Snake because he brought his snake out. I don't know.
That looks good on paper. Two things in the fucking world of entertainment. Don't work with kids and don't work with animals, bro.
Right.
And it's not just like a funny quip. There's a real reason why. And you open yourself up. Like, I thought about bringing Boz out with me. Boz had been chopping to the ring, but he's so skittish. And Al would tell me about Pepper and stuff when they did that. And in the time of PETA and how much I love dogs, I would never want to terrorize my animal. And Pharaoh's been out there and can do that, but it's an animal at the end of the day. You might treat it like it's a human. You might give that those traits. It could be terrified. In an empty arena, probably a little bit better or safer. But still, man, you're opening yourself up to PETA and all this other shit. And if they're already playing the SJW card, why fuck around?
Cody came out with a lot of fire. I liked his energy. They had a good little brawl. Only thing that really surprised me about it is that Cody did not leave the segment on the cell. That surprised me. I figured he would be. So that leads me to believe one of you, I can't remember who said it, might be correct in the fact that Archer is probably going to end up being the TNT champion.
Definitely could be. I thought that, but now with our big announcement of the night, it could be interesting.
You might as well talk about it now because it wasn't really announced on the show. It was just plugged in.
Yeah, it's the graphic, and I was kind of shocked because this is the biggest shot fired in the war ever, really, since WWE signing. They got Mike Tyson for the TNT presentation debut of the belt. And that is massive because the week before, Shane's marking out on Instagram saying, Mike, I'll promote you wherever. Love to work with you again. Baddest man on the planet, whatever. and then he sticks it right in his ass by announcing that they're going to AEW for this. Now, there's some ass. What's up, baby? So the other part of that could pay off, which I thought Archer might go over, but if Tyson's on the comeback and he looks great, you don't, and Steve and I talk about this in the locker room, but should be Cody going over, giving the belt to him. Archer turns Cody to be like, get heat on him. Tyson steps in and peppers up Archer and knocks him down. That's not going to hurt Archer as a massive heel getting knocked out by Mike Tyson. Getting knocked out by somebody on the roster, sure. That's only going to take him to an epic level where he'll be on every fucking sports show. People will know his fucking name, and it'll look good for Mike knocking out a big motherfucker like that.
Well, then
Stevie said you could do it the other way too, where you think it's that, and Tyson helps and heals and goes with Archer and them, and he fucking knocks out Cody in the finish and fucking Archer. But then you're taking away Archer's heel shit, but you're still tying them together. So it's win-win either way. So what are you thinking, man?
I was just going to say AEW is looking to have their Mania moment, right, with Mike Tyson. Go ahead.
It's bigger than that. The fact that they even got him, even if it's empty arena or whatever, is such a fucking fuck you to Vince and those guys, especially off the heels of that Shane tweet. They got to be steaming. What's Vince going to do? Bring back Mayweather and Conor. And he doesn't have the money to do it, but he's so spiteful and he can't take the L that he will shell out, cash in more stock just to fuck you back to them, bro.
So,
man, here's how I feel about it. I'm not sure that I like them announcing that Mike Tyson will be presenting the belt. I think they should have taken a more Vince approach. I remember watching as a teenager, I believe it was announced as Mike Tyson is in the WWF, or Mike Tyson is coming to the WWF. They didn't specify what he was doing. He ended up doing that thing with Austin, which led to something else. I would have just promoted the baddest man on the planet is back, Mike Tyson, and he's going to be at AEW All or Nothing. That sounds big. People might buy a pay-per-view. I'm assuming they're doing this because the buy rate's questionable now, obviously, with the corona and everything. So I'm assuming they want to pop a buy rate, which is the only reason they would spend the money on Mike. So I would have made it as a promoter a little bit more ambiguous, because I can't see too many people buying the ticket just to see him give a belt. I would have him do an in-ring segment. My brain went to somebody like Jericho, where Jericho can get some heat and Jericho gets punched at the end. That's where I would have went with it. Then have him present the belt and do pomp and circumstance with that. They probably, I hope to God, they do some kind of segment, at least with the punch. But it's huge. Don't get me wrong. It's huge, and I'm so happy for them. And Mike, it's great. I'm glad they did it. But I would have promoted it a little bit differently.
It's Double or Nothing. Is it in Vegas again?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, Double or Nothing.
So I think that's the other part of it, because Tyson's got his whole weed thing out there where he's bought a big property. He's growing. He's got his own strains. I don't know if AEW is going to let him promote it or not, but I think that might be a part of the deal of the launch, because I know he was close to launch and all that. And that, I think, is really the reason why he's coming back to fight, to do whatever. It'll all be sponsored by this new Tyson, whatever, weed camp thing that he's got set up that way. So as a businessman, I think he's smart to reach out, and a wrestling fan. But still, that's a great insight, Silvio, on keeping it more ambiguous, and why stooge it off of just making his part this small when the fans can make it massive in his mind. And maybe he there would be some crossover where Mike Tyson faces Chris Jericho, along those lines. So.
Or if they said that, and at the end of the broadcast, when he whooped Vanguard One's ass, if Jericho would have came out and said, "Oh, I hear that Mike Tyson plans on showing up at the pay-per-view. Let me tell you something, Iron Mike. Yeah. If you show up, I'm going to knock you on your ass."
Yeah, the bat, right, too. He could have named it. I got a friend for him, threatened him that
way.
His
name's Holyfield. His name's Evander, and Mike,
yeah.
If you show up, that will sell some pay-per-views. I don't know if him giving a belt can. I hope it does, though.
As Ben pointed out, this was probably just plugged in right after it was shot and taped. So they probably, didn't really have that opportunity to do something with Jericho. But with the ambiguity point there, I think you are.
Sorry, the other thing of that is they might have just got this done yesterday, and you got till May 23rd. You got to get it out quick, right?
Right.
And maybe so.
Well, I was going to say on that ambiguity thought, though, as well, I like that because if you had just been like, well, Mike Tyson's going to show up, even if he just shows up and smiles, you know what I mean? You're going to go walk away happy because you weren't expecting or didn't know what to expect. Now, if he shows up and this presentation is just lame, like, here's the title, and then he leaves, I think that could potentially lead fans to believe, oh, that was kind of disappointing.
I just hope we have our first ever lisp off. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Go back
So he didn't want to sell. He had to. Go
back to the Realm Network and find that footage. So after that, we got a vignette hyping up the tag team division here in AEW on Dynamite. I like this.
We could have a triple lisp off.
Who's the third man?
The first ever triple lisp off. Fuck.
Who's the third man?
Yeah, I was gonna say it was the third man.
Cody, Tyson, and Hager.
Oh, Hager. Gotcha.
That'd be a fight I'd pay to see.
Dude,
Hager and Tyson.
Holy shit. Yeah, it would be.
So after that, with the vignette, a very good package I thought they put together, kind of putting some importance on their tag team division. And this hyped up the next following match, that being the return after about 5-6 weeks here, the Jurrasic Express, alongside Marco Stunt, taking on the Best Friends versus Orange Cassidy. I texted Jargo in the middle of this match, and I was like, are you watching this match? He's like, no, not really. I was like, well, Fenix just did a freaking Street Fighter kick off camera onto Orange Cassidy, and it was the coolest fucking thing I've seen.
It was fucking silly, Luke Kang, Johnny Cage shit, bro. He fucking bodied him with it, too, man. It was great. But Orange Cassidy, it got me hot right away, dude. What's Orange Cassidy's gimmick, his main thing? What's his?
It's not supposed to care.
No, well, that, but
in a sloth, right?
Hands in the what?
Pocket. Hands in the pocket.
He's got on a denim gimmick. No pocket. No pocket on the thing, dude. Put a pocket on your goddamn mask, bro.
Just wear a pocket on your face. Just
right?
Yeah, like you could have made the mask out of an ass jeans pocket and it would have been right in the fucking thing in the middle, dude. This is so simple, and that's a guy who really gets his character. I don't know how these details are missed.
Was that the thing you were talking about, or are you?
No, the women's match is abortion. It's the worst thing ever.
Well, the Jurrasic Express, these two square off. They go back and forth. They give this team, these two teams, some time. Ultimately, OC. Near the end of the match, Fenix, as we mentioned, he came flying in with that Orange Cassidy's head. MJF attacked Jungle Boy from behind as the referee was watching Fenix. MJF slammed Jungle Boy into the ring post, and then Taylor hit him with the awful waffle for the win. So the winner of this match was the Best Friends. It looks like they're going to maybe potentially be the new number one contenders here for the AEW championship, because that's what it looks like they're setting them up, kind of giving them that little bit of a push. Silvio, what did you think of this match?
I liked it. Good little tag match. I'm a big fan of the AEW tag division. I think hands down, they're the best tag division in the country, maybe the world. I don't know. I don't watch too much outside of here in the UK. I thought it was interesting that Luchasaurus was bumping quite a bit, and this is a theme we'll see repeated throughout the night. It was okay during the match. Like, it wasn't anything too egregious. I would like to see them do more with Jungle Boy. I really see star potential in him. And the way that JR talks about him, I know Jim Ross can sell him. The weirdest part for me, that I guess the only part of this I had a problem with, was at the end when Wardlow comes out and busts Marco Stunt's ass, and Luchasaurus doesn't do anything. He just checks on him. That's not what a Luchasaurus would do. That's Jack Perry's job, or that's the security's job. Luchasaurus should have went and knocked Wardlow on his ass and set up a match. Sorry.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I just don't, and this is a theme in the show. I agree, Sil. Maybe you thought I was hot at the other one of this too, but Luchasaurus should be.
Yes, this was the segment I thought would have got you.
Yeah, dude, he should just be a dominant killer, man. And when those little dudes who are the cavemen come a-running to tag Big T-Rex, I just watched Jurassic World last night. Like, when they unleash the T-Rex to fight the Velociraptor T-Rex, it's to come in and fuck shit up, man. Like, it's not to come in and be on the cell and just be a wrestler, dude, especially the size of him. And he looks so goddamn impressive. And I actually want to make him a piece of ring gear from the 3D printer when I get home. Some shoulder pads. I've been thinking about it. I just got to get the other one fired up. But there's so much money written on Luchasaurus, and there's money written on Jungle Boy together. I agree. But they don't need to keep doing the FBI entrance with him on his shoulders. There's more to tell that story and what it is. And to make Jungle Boy look even more like a Tarzan athletic character. They're not doing enough character offense. So does that, and then later to see Harper be on the cell for Chris Daniels blew my mind too after seeing this, when Harper, and Chris Daniels should know, when they're putting it together, because he's such a massive seasoned veteran, and that's not sarcastic. I got a lot of respect for Chris Daniels and he's put together. When they're putting together keep me alive and I'm going to hit you with this, this, and this, Chris Daniels should be like, no, dude, you are here. You're the man. I need to make you look like a crusher right now. You beating me because I'm a seasoned vet so quickly will make you look that much better. Instead, we're having a competitive match, and Brodie fucking went down to about 75% from where he was off of this show, dude.
Since you jumped to it, we also see this in the women's match. I assumed that the Lucha match would be the one that you had issues with. You don't hear me say stuff like this often, and we'll get into it, but I literally took offense to the women's match, and that theme perpetuated throughout there with Statlander being a crash test dummy. So it almost seemed like that night there was an internal memo that said, don't work big tonight.
I'll stooge not from who or where, but the friends I have and we have in this industry who are in there and whatnot, that there is a lot, the cliques and the camps and people politicking to get finishes switched. And I'm not saying one person, I'm talking it's kind of everybody in the hornet's nest of there's no leader there to say we are a cast, we have to go, we have a chance to overcome WWE and do all this shit. There's guys in the top level, the mid, and the girls who are all stabbing each other away to get their little business done. And by the time they get their way, they fucked up the whole whatever it was story that we were building to because they wanted to get a little win, whether it's for their win-loss record sidebar thing they got going or whatever it is. Nobody wants to do real business for anybody else is what I'm hearing, dude. And it's showing on TV.
I don't have any insight into that to verify it or not. Usually I don't have too much issues with things like that, but it was very noticeable tonight that the larger performers were bumping quite a bit. And I'm not sure if it's just the new direction of wrestling. I can't say that it is, but it feels like, I don't know why, but tonight it was, I don't know if a fucking memo went out.
Luchasaurus can get over so much more being on there, grabbed onto the rope with T-Rex arms. He needs to put his arms like that and going, well, he's like, come on, tag, acting like a dinosaur, walk up and down the side doing dinosaur steps, right, like a T-Rex, until the tag comes. Call it the short claw tag. He can't even get his arm all the way out there. He's got to keep it in there to get it in. Once it comes, he just comes in and bodies everybody. That's all you want to see. You never want to see Luchasaurus taking bumps for these guys. Chucky T, I've did well this week too. Better than I've seen, more emotion and stuff out of him too. But,
I love that team. Let me ask you this though, Hamin. How did the very first segment of the night end? What was the last thing you saw in segment 1?
Cody not laid out.
And who did what? When Cody was not laid out, what was Archer doing? Was he backing up? I can't remember. I watched it out of order. He was powdered out, and so he's not standing strong over him, being, Allah command me to crush you. Look at this infidel, pathetic. This title's mine. None of that shit, dude. When he's also got Jake Roberts right by him, dude. Why would you give up your high ground that way? So, and Cody should know. Big men under, really. Even when you're over, you're under. Cody should know that it's more about the empathy if he's going to win to be doing that shit. So I don't know, man. I'm not going to say Cody's wrong because I don't know where they're leading with the booking. I did expect him to be on the cell, but I liked what Cody did. I do just find that theme of the night very, very, very strange. Why the big men were working like they were.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's it.
I was gonna say, so before we get into the fatal 4-way match between these women, I'm gonna call something out here. So John Moxley showed up at the arena, right, backstage, and he's quote unquote pissed Something I didn't like that Alex Marvez said. He said, "I've never seen Mox like that." So, and he was talking to the fact that Mox comes in and he kind of shakes the camera and walks off. I didn't like that because, like, when you make a remark like that as the viewer, now I'm comparing previous instances, and I'm like, when has Mox become unhinged? So I have seen Mox before in the past like that. I thought it would have been better if he had said something along the lines of, "We may need to get extra security to monitor the situation because there's no telling what Mox is going to do," right? Would have been a lot easier, simpler, rather than being like, "Hey, Mox is crazy."
Who was that man?
Alex Marvez, the guy?
That's who it was? I didn't recognize him.
Yeah. I think he did the first couple shows, right? I think he's just doing the backstage now stuff for him.
Gotcha.
So, yes, the Fatal 4-Way match. Here we go. Penelope Ford with Kip Sabian taking on Chris Statlander, Dr. Britt Baker, and Hikaru Shida. This match went about 10-15 minutes. The conclusion of the match, we see Statlander going for an electric chair drop attempt on Ford, but Ford catches her with a reverse Rana driver. Baker pulls Statlander to the floor and slams her to the ring post, and then Shida lifted Ford up to her shoulders, brought her down into a nasty backbreaker. And then Baker hits Statlander in the lockjaw on the floor as Shida hits a flying knee on Ford for the pins. The winner of this match was Shida via a pinfall. So you
know
guys,
what pop of the night was for me?
Go ahead.
It was when they cut the Spears on the side. He just had the sign that said Nyla dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
I fucking laughed my ass off at that, dude. That was fucking gold.
I love that one too.
I just used to love doing that in college. People have their whiteboards on the fucking wall. I just go write terrible shit on there. But that's good. Nyla dropped the bomb is fucking hilarious. That would be a good shirt for it too, bro. And an ongoing fart gag would be funny as well.
So you said you were hot about this match?
Oh, dude! Before I was hanging out with Seidel last night at his dojo. And it was great to see him, and his students are in there training and working their asses off, and we're talking wrestling and just the girls of like how this women's evolution has killed them and ruined them, and this match is proof positive. They need to stop trying to wrestle like men. I'm not saying go back to cat fight and always hair pull and all that. It's the fact that they watch the Bucks do overbooked shit. They watch Lucha Brothers do overbooked shit. Both those teams are amazing, high-flying, superhuman athletes who train to do that specific style. These are greenhorn girls who can barely do wrestling class day one, most of them. And they have contracts, and now they're trying to wrestle like those guys. And all they do is bury shit, expose each other, and make the moves look dangerous and bad, and it doesn't ever get over. And they want to do false finishes with what some people call a waterfall. In OVW, we call it a shotgun finish, where it's somebody takes something, they roll, you turn around into somebody else's shit, bang, 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 in a four-way or a tag. And it picks up the action. You've seen New Day and a bunch of people do it the right way plenty of times. Their footwork is so bad. Britt Baker hits a Canadian Destroyer and then rolls out like she's hurt on the sell-off of it. The blonde comes in and has to do the front cartwheel to hit a stunner to sell up for Shida, who hits a knee and then just falls down dead to sell so the ref can do a 10 count. If I would fire them all. I'd be like, none of you are on TV anymore. You're all done. If you think that's the way, or else the agent, whoever it was, anybody who thinks putting that together, have you ever seen anyone in UFC hit a flying knee knockout move and then just fall down dead themselves? You are a complete and total retard in my mind when you do that kind of stuff in this business. I have no tolerance for that whatsoever. From management, from agenting, from the veterans who are backstage who are not pulling them aside because they're tired of these girls politicking. I want to win and I want No, you're ruining wrestling because you think the women's revolution came and that means we can wrestle just like the guys. Well, you better go back to class because your footwork sucks, your execution sucks. Statlander picks up old girl who weighs the least in the match, and the girl doesn't even post. Statlander almost trips, has to drop her on her instead of doing something safe, but they still do it just to get through it because they don't know how to work. They don't call anything there. Everything is planned. Move, for move in the back. And when they get out there and the bell rings, they remember 40 to 60% of it, each of them. And now you got 4 people, and she might remember her 40% and forgot this, that, and the other. And now it's nothing but a giant clusterfuck and an embarrassment on TV. I would have cut that from TV, and it never would have seen the light of day.
Silvio, you alluded to the fact that you weren't satisfied or weren't happy with this match. What did you think?
As far as your wrestle like guys comment, I mean, I could give a fuck if they wrestle like men or women as long as they do it well. And they certainly did not tonight. And the knowing how to work, I wouldn't put Sheeta in that category. I think Sheeta is a very good the best worker they have.
Didn't prove that to me tonight. That's for goddamn sure.
And I'll give you that. The other 3 are inexperienced. You guys know how I feel about Statlander's work. She has potential, and Britt's character. Penelope Ford looked good tonight, and this is the best she looked. Granted, it was because she gave everyone 20 bumps. Those are my positives. Now, so right off the bat, Statlander, the biggest, strongest woman in the match, on a one-on-one square-off, gets immediately punched and beat down by Penelope Ford, the smallest, least over woman in the match.
Yep.
That's when it started.
The manager, she's been the manager, the sneaky manager. Now she can go toe-to-toe. Okay, wrong.
So it starts with Statlander fighting from underneath, right? Then the next thing we see happen is Penelope Ford crossbody both Statlander and Sheeta at the same time. So this one small woman takes out both of them. So yet another bump for her. Then Britt comes in and beats up Statlander some more. So she's been beaten up by 2 people so far. Then they go to an electric chair drop. She hits her with an electric chair drop. They do a Tower of Doom, which looked a little bit rough for Britt and Sheeta, but at least Statlander's doing something. The only spot that I thought was pretty clever was Statlander went for a Big Bang Theory, and they did like a cool roll out of it, and Britt went into a pin. That was awesome. But then,
that was good.
Remember that? But then for some reason, Britt Baker, the heel and the great heel she's been, does a Canadian Destroyer. I have no idea.
And sells like she's hurt.
Yeah. So then Ford's bumping everybody around. Britt takes out Statlander again. Sheeta then suplexes somebody onto Statlander who's in the corner.
Yeah, I got the shotguns mixed up. I know they were both rotten though in execution.
Cops on their way over there, Ben? They coming to get you?
Yeah, they can. Diplomatic immunity.
So at this point where I'm at in the match, I put in my notes, Statlander better win this shit. Then we see a weird makeout spot with Penelope Ford and Kip Sabian. So they were in the middle of running the ropes. It wasn't like Sheeta was on the cell. Sabian grabs her. Sheeta moves, and then they do a makeout for 7 seconds. How you don't think you're going to get cut off, I don't fucking know. Then Statlander takes a sloppy, dangerous poison Rana, a backwards Rana from Penelope Ford, just to roll out of the floor for Statlander to get posted by Britt Baker and then get put in the lockjaw and submitted, in theory, on the floor while Sheeta beats Ford in the ring with the knee, and Britt can see the whole thing.
How about when they shit can the one out and then they shit can Statlander right on top of her, bro? Like, you got the whole ring to go, like, super dangerous. Like, just such greenhorn. What the fuck are you doing? Like, to not be safe. To every bit of that is move, step by step. And you see how bad Penelope Ford or Cruz, whatever her name is, fucking footwork is to move around Britt, while they're trying to do bypasses to get into the next reverse flipping Rana. And, like, stop it. Stop it. You do a goddamn cartwheel, handspring, back elbow, hair whip over, front, flip, whatever you want to do there. And you don't got to go back to full cat fight, but this stuff needs to end because your terrible execution of doing high spots that the guys are going to do in their match just because you think you can get your shit in to be on an equal level is business exposing bad, and you're killing your spot on the card. The women are a feature. A feature can be a main event if you build the story to it, but you are a feature and you need to wrestle a certain way. I'm not going to fucking go out there and be going off the top rope and trying to do moonsaults and shit like that. People want to see me fish hook, rake eyes, power slam, maybe drop a knee or an elbow and yell at people and then get some fast comebacks on me. Like, I'm not going to go in and get all these spots in that are not within my wheelhouse to do just because it's the popular thing in wrestling to do it. They're all shitting on the craft, and it's bad. Like, if you're going to have them walk it through it, here's how we're going to walk it through it. You're all so green at this, and you think because you watched them on the indies put matches together that that's the way it's done. It's not. We're going to break it down into 3 chapters. Here's your chapter, and here's what happens in that chapter. And when you're down, you stay down until it's chapter 2 at the end when you got to get back up. Here's theirs. Here's what we're going to do. They need to keep it simple, stupid for these girls here, because anything less than that is ruining their products.
I don't know why Statlander allowed herself to be treated that way in the match. We just had her on the last pay-per-view. She was built for months to be this ass kicker in a competitive match against Nyla, who they were putting to the top of the moon. Nyla's now the toughest, and she's the toughest because she beat Chris Statlander. Then Chris proceeds to get beat up in this match by everyone the entire time. How she is a worker did not I know she's inexperienced, but how she did not realize that she was getting bumped the entire time is beyond me. But I think the biggest offense of this match was it was designed to get Sheeta over and keep her number 1 spot. But it did not get Sheeta over. She won. It did not get her over. If anyone got any more established, it was Penelope because she kicked everyone's ass. And
I agree. But the footwork and everything was so rotten.
I can't even get into the footwork just because I'm so mad about the fucking Statlander.
Go back and watch Penelope and Britt like do-si-doing around it.
But I know that's how they work, and everyone there should know.
That's where Shimmer and Shine at the Bruin Eagles Club got them all so gassed up that a woman's roster of workers can do something. And good for you, girls, girl power. But that's still tape trader, masturbator shit for those guys who are going to put over all girl shows. That doesn't make you a good worker, and they refuse to sell and see that. And I like Statlander too, mainly because she's my style. She looks like wife number 1. Right? Like, she looks like Grace. But right now, I hear Rip in my head, even Sheeta too. You're on TV and you look like that? What are you, lazy? Bullshit. Somebody else going to take your fucking spot. She put on a couple, and during COVID time, you can't. If you got the spot, you got to look a certain way, and she's got it, and that's going to also open her up to management saying, let's kill her push. She's not the sexiest one. Like you said, what's her name? It came off Penelope as the sexiest one in this, dude. So
I've said pleasant things about all 4 of them, and I'm usually very complimentary on the show.
I was gonna say, Silvio's hot.
I have to fucking sanitize myself after that.
And to be honest, and here's me throwing myself under the bus. I've had way worse matches. Okay, like I've had
probably
ones.
have to.
Yeah,
but I'm not on TV on TNT.
Yeah, exactly. You probably had them against me. So they just got to step it up, and hopefully they can all look at this and move beyond it, and they're not going to the back and going, too sweet, we nailed it. Like, good job, girls. Like, if they really care about their craft, they'll watch us and make sure that doesn't happen again.
Moral of the story, if you'd like, you can contact Chris Silvio. He can get you in contact with Jenna Van Muscles, and she will make a woman out of you.
Get in contact with Chris Silvio and do superstar seminars.
Yes,
I think Sil would be a phenomenal. I think that'd be a great job for you, Sil. You're so good-willed, and you could break off from me because I don't want any of my toxicity spilling over to hurt your fucking money. But you would be a great wrap-up guy to go through each match with them on Zoom afterwards and say, girls, I love your effort, but here I got to be really critical. And let's get away from planning it out, and let me put your matches together for you. You get the business ahead of time so they're all protected and they all know what they have to do, because that 2 hours before when they find out and everybody's trying to kayfabe and go, we'll put it together a little later, bro. And somebody comes on and go, you ready? You ready to put it together? Yeah. Just give me 5 minutes. That trying to superstar to act like you're over and not really care about your TV time is showing through big time. And somebody needs to be the caring agent, father figure to rein these girls in from them doing more damage to their career and AEW. And I think he'd be a phenomenal agent, digital agent post-show to go over tape review to do that.
I'd be happy to help them, and I like all 4 of those girls, and I'm a big supporter of the product. But I'm literally upset even talking about that match.
Well, either way,
I'm so upset that's it for me. I'm going to the beach, infidels. So
all right, have fun.
Yeah, what's that?
Have fun, buddy.
Yeah, man. I'll hit you up later. I'm supposed to try and get something with Dee tomorrow and APOC, and if we can all hook it up, Seidel, then we will, maybe for dinner or drink something afterwards and break all the social distancing laws, man.
All right, buddy.
All right. Peace to all y'all. Thanks, Matt, for doing all the production work and uploading hackerhamin.podbean.com. YOLO.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That match got Ben Hamin so hot he had to leave the show, Chris. What I was gonna say though is either way, hit up Silvio, hit up Jenna. It's all going to the same household, so hire one of them. So you get the proper.
Let me ask you this, Matt, because you're the young boy of the crew, and you're not a worker. You work in production, and you've done a little bit of commentary. So just from your, I guess, fan perspective and what you have learned in the last 2 years of being around wrestling. What did you think of this match?
So the only issue I have with this match is that I wanted to see Britt Baker win. I think the way they've been pushing her over the last month, I think she's become kind of a star within this COVID-19 pandemic. But I kind of get why they didn't, obviously, right? Because I don't want to do heel versus heel for the title during the end. But they've been putting so much emphasis on Britt Baker that it was just kind of shocking to see just Shida, who hasn't been on AEW television for the last 2 months, come in and win the match. I didn't like that. I found myself drifting in and out of this match. It was very hard to keep focused on it at times. And I think you guys point out a lot of things, the reasons why. There was a lot of things that made you believe that it just wasn't believable. Certain moves being performed, or you seen a big woman getting taken off her feet so easily. It'd be like back in the day, like just, I don't know, Spike Dudley, just Hurricanrani Big Show, like for the fun of it. You know what I mean? So there was a lot of missteps there. So I can definitely see why you guys were so hot. I mean, of course, Ben's hot enough to walk off the show. That got in that match. So.
Yes, and you were right as to why they're having Sheeta in there. They have the pay-per-view coming up. You need a babyface to wrestle Nyla. That's a given. I don't know if you've heard this phrase, but it's been said many times, like certain wrestlers don't need the belt. I'm going to put Britt Baker now in that category. She'll get it eventually, but her character right now is so good and so strong despite this match they just had. She don't even need the belt. Britt Baker is the women's champion without having the belt. She's the person they're talking about. She's more over than Nyla. No offense, because I like Nyla, but Britt's the AEW women's champion. It don't fucking matter if she has a belt or not.
Yeah, I mean, but other than that, it was also, I thought, a little long. I mean, I know that there's 4 people, so you got to give them time. But unless like the wrestling is crisp 100% and the storytelling is captivating, when you have 4 people in the ring wrestling that aren't necessarily, it just felt like it dragged, I guess is what I'm getting at the match itself a little bit. But something else that did not drag was after that, we've got Shug D. He cuts a promo saying he's been grinding for 16 years, but Jericho has no respect for him, or, he's been name calling him, and he does so by calling him Pineapple Pete. Now, I like this. He says he first was insulted, but ever since then, and then it does kind of like a pull out as far as the camera footage, and all of a sudden he picks up a coconut and the music kicks in and he's like, I love it, it's great. He says that Jericho rolls with the inner circle, but Pete doesn't throw shapes, he throws hands. But I like this. This was a great way to introduce Pineapple Pete, to try and get him over now with the audience. What did you think? Man,
I like Shug a lot. He's one of the boys, and I'm so happy for him to be getting this, because I know what you have to go through, and I know what he's done and what he still continues to do. I just remember it was less than 2 years ago, him hitting me up saying, hey man, how do I break into the UK? I gave him a few tips. He went in, did all the work, did his shit, got over. Now he's back here and he's in a position like this. So I got nothing but love for Shug.
So after that, we got our next tag team match here. We got Proud and Powerfull of the Inner Circle taking on Kenny Omega and Matt Hardy. These 2 teams went through a full commercial break. They got a lot of time here. I'm not going to go through every single detail here, but this match ends up with Pride and Powerful going for a street sweeper on Omega, but he caught him. Ortiz rolled him up with a Hurricane, but then Hardy tossed Santana to the ramp. Hardy tagged in, locked Ortiz into a hanging guillotine. Sammy Guevara then came out with the neck brace on. He tried to interfere in the match, but Hardy kicked his chair away and hit him with the twist of fate onto the chair. And then we see Hardy lifting Ortiz up to the top and attempting a superplex. But Ortiz shoved him off, only for Omega to kill Ortiz with his V-trigger, or take him out with his V-trigger, I should say. And then Hardy hits a twist of fate off the top for the pin. So another win here, or I guess not necessarily another win, but another tag team matchup here with Hardy and Omega. I'm kind of liking this, Hardy and Omega, and I'm hoping that when Hangman comes back, he maybe fully turns heel. That's what I'm kind of hoping they go with that. What do you think of the match?
Hardy worked his ass off.
Yeah, he did.
About the thing off the top. He took a good bump into the guardrail. I don't know if you caught this, but at one point he got back body dropped to the apron and hit the small of his back on the apron. I've done that before and it hurts so fucking bad.
It looks like it hurts.
But he didn't even sell it. Like he was a champ about it. And Hardy's 43 years old, 44. So I know it didn't feel good. It was good, man. I like their stuff. I'm a big fan of Kenny Omega's work as of late. Anything he's doing, I'm into. But I think I was so unnerved by the women's match that it took me a while. I'm being honest. It took me a while to get into this one, and I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I would have had I not seen that match, just because I already had a bad taste in my mouth. They did fine. I liked Matt Hardy in the role that they did in the street fight kind of match because it's so different and so big. I'm not quite sure, as much as I like him and as great as he is, I'm not quite sure that Matt fits in well with that style of regular tag match between Proud and the Powerful and Omega and Hangman. So it would have been a complete different match had Hangman been in there. It would have been a lot quicker, a lot more of the stuff you expect Omega to do and you expect Proud and Powerful to do. So having Matt in there to, do his stuff, he's the veteran. Matt kind of slowed the pace down a little bit, and I'm sure he was calling most of the shots because that's the way it works. You let he's fucking Matt Hardy. You let him roll with it. So not that it was a bad match, because it certainly wasn't. But I'm not sure that I would have him in that role with Kenny in many straight up matches like that. Like, think about how awesome the one they had with the Lucha Brothers was, or the one they had with the Young Bucks. The one with the Young Bucks was one of the best fucking tag team matches in years. You're not going to get that style that the AEW fans like with Matt Hardy. And he can't do all of his funny delete shit. Like it's just kind of a melting pot. But yeah, overall it was a good match. One thing that's jumping out at me, man, is we saw both Santana. He took a wicked bump for the Twist of Fate, where he kind of goes down like a nosedive. Was that like a 45-degree angle?
Yeah.
And then we saw
rhombus angle, whatever.
Yeah. Then we saw Sammy Guevara, which was pretty funny when he trotted out with the chair and he got spiked. I'm a little bit worried about that, man. Like, being a coach, I try to teach the correct things. That bump now is becoming in vogue for things like the cutter. So traditionally, the RKO, the cutter, whatever you want to call it, you land on your belly. It's just called a face bump, a front bump, nice and flat. But because of the way today's style is, where everything has to be bigger.
Looks on the top of the cranium, right?
People think it all has to be head and neck. They're doing this fucking bump where they're putting their necks and heads at risk. And as much shit as we know right now about CTE, as educated we are about neck injuries, people are going to get hurt doing that kind of stuff. So I would like to see wrestlers doing a little bit less of that. They looked good, but there's just no need for that bump. Just land flat. It's still going to look good.
I guess my thought with the Hangman Page thing is that there's rumors sort of circulating that the Revival, or whatever they're going to be calling themselves now, are going to be joining AEW. And I think they would probably fit well with Hangman. And if Hangman was going to turn, that would be the time to do it. And I'm sure that they want to push Hangman as a singles competitor long-term, as the face of their company. So, get the titles off of them. You maybe transition to the Revival, and then maybe you have Hangman going after Cody for that TNT title, if that's at the time or whatnot. So I think there's a lot of cool things you could do with that. And then you let Hangman be the face, or run his own faction, right? Run his own cowboy shit. Which, he, during the latest episode of Being the Elite, he was out in the woods and he was screaming, "I can scream whatever I want. I'll never feel as secure as my competitors, or my colleagues. I'll never be as good as them. I'll never live up to them." So that's kind of playing into that character, if you will, that he's never felt as good as the Elite. So why not go and start your own faction? So I think I'd like to see something like that. But other than that, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The revival is now known as the Revolt.
The Revolt. Sorry, the Revolt. So after that match, we have Excalibur first announced that the rules for the casino ladder match, it will feature staggered entrances, but a chip can be pulled down from the ceiling at any time. So I'm curious about that. And I've been left before I could get into this. There's a little bit of confusion with the location of this pay-per-view because the MGM Grand had reported that they canceled all events to the end of May. So that was initially where this was supposed to take place, but now it's supposed to be an undisclosed location. It still sounds like it's going to be in Las Vegas somewhere, but with a remark like that, I mean, do you think they're going to hang the chip like they would like you would use for a briefcase or a ladder, or is it going to be like you have to go up to the roof and get it?
It's going to be at the Jacksonville Stadium, man.
Okay.
The main event that I don't know this for a fact, but I gathered this when they talked about the match that Jericho challenged them to on a football field. They own a football field. So
right.
Why would they pay to do it anywhere else? The MGM Grand doesn't have a football field. So that's just my assumption.
That's a good call out. I forgot about that football field remark. So after that, Nyla Rose approaches Hikaru Shida backstage after she's having her interview, says she's got a present for her before hitting her in the head with a kendo stick. And then she actually says, something like, "Take that, bitch." And I was like, that's what I wanted Mox to say last week. All right.
Hell yeah.
So I liked it. Then we got the Salt of the Earth, MJF, making his first appearance on AEW Dynamite in a couple months as far as in-ring competitor action. He takes on Lee Johnson. MJF attacks Lee Johnson as the bell begins with the back elbow, then starts beating him down, taunting him. Johnson tries to fight back, but MJF bitch slaps the hell out of him around, tosses him to the floor, chokes him out, and then hits him an apron bomb. And then you see MJF hit a shoulder breaker, locked in the Salt of the Earth for the submission. So the winner of the match was MJF. After the match, MJF cut a promo about his match with Jungle Boy at the pay-per-view this weekend. He says everyone is so excited for the match. And he says that he has a little bit of ring rust and asks Lee Johnson about that. MJF says that he saw Marco Stunt had an open contract for next week. I guess that we have to assume for next week. And that he signed his name on the dotted line for that as well. So MJF will be taking on Marco Stunt. What do you think of this whole segment?
It was exactly what it should be. MJF getting a strong win. It was what you call good business. MJF, oddly enough, wrestled like the biggest person on the show, and I think MJF is around 5'8", 5'9". So yeah, that was an interesting note, and it's going to be fun to watch him and Marco because I have a feeling MJF will do just enough to keep people invested in Marco, but still look like a badass going into the pay-per-view. I don't know if it was before this and you left it out or it's after, but we also had the Taz and Darby Allin promo, and they did exactly what I suggested last week, where Taz apologized to Darby. "Hey, man, I wasn't trying to step on your toes. I'm just trying to help. If you'd like my advice." And then Darby, tells him basically he doesn't need it and walks off. And also explained the tilt, which I explained last week also. It's an amateur wrestling move.
Listening to the show?
I love how they threw that in, and I love how Darby said he was a state champ or placed in the state and knew what it was too. I didn't know he was an amateur wrestler, if that's true or not. If it is, that's cool, and that's probably why he's picking the business up so well. So I don't know. Maybe they'll do the angle I was talking about, or maybe whoever is writing this part of the show thinks similar to I do, or three, maybe they listen to Light the Fuse.
Some people say that they have a better AEW show. Well, it looks like our ideas are ended up on TV. So really, who really has the best AEW review show?
Not the coffee guys, that's for sure.
Speaking of the coffee guys, you can go to theroasters.com. They're one of our sponsors and get your bag of Russo Pro coffee. After this, though, we got Pineapple Pete, Shug D, taking on Le Champion, Chris Jericho of the Inner Circle. I really liked this match. It was a quick match, to the point where Jericho didn't even take off his shirt. Jericho's wearing his Pineapple Pete shirt as Shug D gets in the face, slaps him, gets fired up a little bit, hits a series of strikes, tries a drop kick, but he has a running back elbow second time, but then he goes for a third one, and he runs right into the Judas effect for the pin. Quick match, Jericho gets the victory, and then he rips off Pineapple Pete's shirt, says that now the threat of Pineapple Pete has been vanquished. He wants to turn his attention to the Elite versus the Inner Circle. Jericho questions whether or not the Young Bucks or Adam Page are even in the Elite anymore. Says they're going to give the Elite a chance to get their shit together and face them one more time. says, while the world reacts to the coronavirus, the Inner Circle interacts. He says they have created the Stadium Stampede match. He says that if you thought the street fight was wild, that just you wait until see what the Inner Circle does to the Elite inside of a football stadium. He challenges the Elite to that match at Double or Nothing. Vanguard 1 that appears with the Inner Circle, and he's got the little baby shirt Jericho tried to give him a few weeks ago. A little text appears on the screen that says, "We accept." Jericho tries to go to get Vanguard 1 to join the Inner Circle. Instead, he then smashes Vanguard 1, and this ends with Matt Hardy emotionally lying in the ring over the loss of his fallen robot. This was funny. This was a fun segment. What'd you think?
It was. Pineapple Pete Shug D, he did well. He came in with a lot of fire. He was bringing the heat. It was very short, kind of an unexpected finish. Obviously, you knew Jericho was going to win. I didn't expect it to be so quick, but, it worked for what it was. I think what could be a good sign is that Jericho had a Pineapple Pete shirt made that looks similar to the other AEW shirts. So maybe that means he might be sticking around, which for his sake, I hope he is. I thought the Vanguard stuff was funny. It was pretty funny when he came out and Jericho told Vanguard, the nerve of you showing up here after what you've done. Like, having a conversation with the fucking drone was pretty hilarious to me. Introducing the bat, I believe he called Floyd.
Floyd, yes. Floyd,
and then beating the shit out of Vanguard 1. Pretty good. In the stadium match, it's going to be interesting. I think he was inspired a little bit by what happened last week. And he could tell that kind of match will work well with him and Hardy together, and it's easier. So that kind of match, like the brawling, more hardcore, I guess you could say, is a lot easier to perform, less to remember. It's a lot more free-flowing, and you could do a lot more fireworks, so it's easier on the body.
I was thinking they take the Jacksonville Stadium, you cover the top of it with a cage, cut a hole. Hardy will have like a parachute, and he can just do a big move off the top of that.
Hell yeah. Do that fucking leg drop like you did
exactly.
off the ladder. No, man, it's going to be cool. Jericho was borrowing from Stampede Wrestling, obviously, with the name, and he said an Ed Whalen line. I can't remember the exact line. I should have written it down, but the longtime commentator, Stampede, Ed Whalen, he repeated one of his lines. So good stuff. Oh, by the way, Shug D, one last thing. They could have another 1, 2, 3 kid on their hands if they do this right.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought the segment was really fun. Jericho was, of course, top notch. And then after that, we get to, I believe this was the main event, right? Brodie Lee taking on Christopher Daniels. So Lee wears the world title to the ring. He hands it over to one of the Dark Order members. Match starts off with Daniel eating an elbow, and then he catches a diving Daniels and drops him with a power slam. Lee then tossed Daniels to the floor, kind of beat him around the ringside a little bit. Back in the ring, we saw him hit a slingshot elbow, or that being Christopher Daniels hit one. But then Daniels hit a series of elbows, right hands in the corner. Lee raked his eyes, hit him with the Mafia kick, and then he backdropped him and got a near fall. Then toward the end of the match, because they gave this match some time with a little bit of a commercial break in between, Daniels went for a second Angel's Wing attempt, but Lee blocked it and went for a powerbomb. Daniels blocked it, hit a BME onto a standing Lee for a near fall, and then Daniels went to the top rope and attempted another diving Rana, but this time Lee countered it into a powerbomb in midair and hit the roaring lariat for the pin. So the winner of this match was Lee. Before we get to the backs and what happened afterwards, what did you think of the match between these two?
Big ass bump for Daniels, man. That power bomb, Jesus Christ.
Right.
I like both of those guys, and Daniels is an absolute legend, brilliant mind in wrestling. And Daniels looked very, very good in this match. However, I'm not sure if that was the right call in this situation, with Brodie being who he is and having this huge championship match with Jon Moxley. Daniels looked great in that match. Yeah, he sold for him and stuff, and he took heat at the beginning, but Daniels looked awesome, and Brodie was bumping around. So I'd say of the two of them, Daniels looked like the better wrestler. And though Brodie won, with his finish, it wasn't a clean win. It wasn't like, Daniels fucked something up and he hit him. They had the spot where everybody came in the ring and a little schmoz, and then he did something. So I think they should have definitely given Brodie a clean, none of that other stuff finish. Maybe the guys could have brawled on the ramp or something.
Well, it's been pointed out before he left that he thought the match should have been shorter. Did you think that maybe Brodie should have gone over more convincingly in this match?
Absolutely. Daniel shined too much in this match. It's a hard spot for him, you know, because it's a good opportunity. It's a main event and it's his first title match there. So as a performer, it's a good chance for him to show what he has and maybe show Tony Khan something. But like if wrestlers didn't have ego, or if Daniels was the booker of the show and it was his money, the smarter call would have been to make Brodie look like a monster. He could have still gotten that Rana in and a couple things, but done it the right time and maybe even a little bit shorter, because they wrestled like they were similar size. They wrestled,
Right.
you know, that the way that match happened in the finish would have been more like something MJF or myself would do as a heel. Like that's how we would have beaten Daniels, minus the clothesline, of course. It was a bit too even, but yeah, man.
So after that, to wrap up the show, Moxley finally makes his way down to the ring. He fights his way through the Dark Order members. Brodie Lee and number 10 retreat as Moxley lays out the rest of the members. Moxley says that he can admire guts and seizing the opportunity, but he will not suffer or stand for disrespect. He says that Lee made a foolish decision that he will pay for, says that this world title is about a lot more than a piece of metal. Lee will find that out on May 23rd. He says that he will rain down a hailstorm of violence on Lee. He says Lee may very well find that his AEW career is over before it started. And that is how that ended. What did you think of Mox's wrap-up there?
How did we open the show?
We opened the show with Jake the Snake and Lance Archer.
And then what after they came out?
Cody. And then the tag match.
So we had Cody come out and drive the truck in to confront the big guy. Then the last segment of the show, we had Moxley walk out, you know, same thing, but he wasn't in a car, to confront the big man. Both big men left. Now, granted, Cody had a fight with the big man first before he left, and Brodie, being a heel, took off, which again maybe plays into my point a little bit about that's more of a finish MJF or myself would have done as a smaller heel. It fits a little bit because Brodie is doing a different kind of heel character, so I could see it. But it kind of began. It was good. Moxley is awesome, and his promo was great, and I fucking love Moxley. I wish there was more of him on the show. But I think they did pretty much the same opening and closing. What I think could have been dope is if they combined both of those spots together. And maybe there was a tag match where Lance Archer and Brodie Lee were tagging up against somebody, maybe Jurrasic Express, for example. And they both had issues with Moxley and Cody. They beat Jurrasic Express. They're whooping ass at the end. We see Cody drive up in his fucking truck. He starts coming through. Then from the other side, we see Moxley coming through.
With his car, right, that he's got.
Yeah. They meet in the middle. They look at each other like, what the fuck are you doing here? What are you doing here? Then they go, fuck it. They nod. They get in. They fucking start going nuts. They bump the heels around. They whoop a little ass. The fucking heels leave. And they're not friends, so they're not going to sit around and hug. They give each other kind of a cool nod. Or maybe Cody goes to give Moxley 5 and Moxley just dips out of the ring because he's John Moxley. That would have been exciting. It would have combined them both.
Right.
I just didn't like that we had the same segment twice. I don't mind what either of them did, but it was a surprising call. I'm surprised because their stories have been so fucking good over the last few months. I'm very surprised they didn't realize they had a very similar beginning and ending.
I agree.
I'm assuming they didn't do physicality in the end because they did it in the beginning, but very, very similar.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I much would have rather. It might not have been as glaring if maybe Lance Archer had left Cody Land, right? Because then you'd get a little bit of parallel where in one scene you have the big guy leaving him, and then you got the other one where it works well for Brodie Lee's character to retreat, being this cult-like figure, right? Not getting his hands dirty. So I think but when you did both and you pointed out that way, yeah, it definitely is kind of glaring that they both started and kind of ended the same way, where the smaller guy gets the bigger guy to retreat. You know, the baby face gets the heel to back out, which is generally you don't do that until like as far as when you're like concluding it, right? Like it's not necessarily something. Usually the heel's not the one retreating, as far as in that instance. But
depending on the heel,
or depending, though, of course. I mean, for the big guy, right? For a powerhouse guy like these, usually the giants aren't the ones running your way. That was though AEW. I mean, we've got one more week heading into the pay-per-view, but so far they've got some of the card lined up. We've got Rey Fenix now taking on Colt Cabana and Orange Cassidy, and someone else in this casino ladder match. MJF versus Jungle Boy. The AEW Tag Team titles #1 contender match was announced. Private Party now taking on the Best Friends. AEW Women's title in a no DQ match. Nyla Rose versus Shida. The Stadium Stampede match with the Elite and Matt Hardy versus the Inner Circle. The TNT Championship match. Lance Archer versus Cody Rhodes. Mike Tyson will present the title. And the AEW World title. Moxley versus Lee. So far the card is shaped out, and they've got another week, Ms. Silvio, to really hype it up before going into the pay-per-view. Any final thoughts on the show itself?
I hope they really get a good game plan for next week and bookend it tight before the pay-per-view, because they have an uphill battle. We all know that. Money's tight right now, and some people aren't digging the no fans thing. I don't want to get in the rabbit hole on this. We can discuss it more next week. But I think there might be a little bit of hope just due to the numbers. Like before all this, AEW was sitting around the 800,000 to 900,000 mark, right?
Yep.
So now they're around mid-sevens. So they really haven't dropped off that much. Whereas you look at WWE, I think they were doing, a 2.5 prior, and now they're doing a 1.6. That is a huge discrepancy where AEW is staying a little bit more level. So maybe the fans will support the pay-per-view the same way that they've been supporting the TV. And I hope they do.
Yeah,
Decent show.
I would agree. It was a decent show. A little bit of business done for some of the different matches. Some of those things you guys pointed out you didn't like, whether it be some of the women's matches as well, and some of the fact that the big men weren't looking as strong as you'd like them to look. I actually, Ben's off the line and he had to go, but I was going to bring this question to both you guys. And I think this is kind of a good segue here. I've been watching a couple of YouTube videos the last couple of days, and one of the content creators, he's from England. He brought up the fact that he believes since 1994, 1995, since the steroid trial happened with the WWE, that there has been a shift in the overall presentation of wrestlers, whether they've kind of gone slimming down, not looking as jacked, maybe not having as many big guys now, that the athleticism is more of the, focus, right? Because you've got smaller base guys in comparison to the larger than life characters that you had in the 80s and 90s. So my question to you is, Silvio, do you think that is a direct reflection of that steroid trial kind of thing? Or is it just the way wrestling kind of just evolved into more of that athletic style itself?
Well, in the sense wrestling devolved.
Okay.
Prior to superstar Billy Graham, most wrestlers were not big, giant muscle heads. A lot of people they just looked like someone's tough uncle or tough dad. You had barrel-chested men, maybe some good biceps, but there weren't all these guys with chiseled physiques. There were exceptions, the Rocky Johnsons, the Tony Atlas. But back in the day, man, until around the mid-'80s, when everybody got on steroids and Vince got the big TV push and that was what was selling, a lot of wrestlers didn't look like that. Go back and watch history. Wrestlers just looked like average people that could win a fight. Now, when the steroid trial happened, they decided to go with guys like Brett and Shawn, who, looked a bit cleaner and like they weren't on something. But they also were switching gears to a newer crop of talent, due to the fact that also happened to be the year they lost Hogan and Savage. So they didn't have any more stars. They hadn't built Diesel yet, who would later become their big man. So again, they were pushing big people. They pushed Sid a couple years later. They pushed Taker for fucking 20 years after that. So, and then they went back to Batista, and Cena, the bigger guys, and Triple H. And then they went to Daniel Bryan. So I think personally, like, WWE kind of weaves in and out of it. The direct result of the steroid trial, yes, they put smaller people. And I think they did the same thing with CM Punk around the Benoit ordeal. When everything happened with Benoit and the roid rage came up, you notice Punk got pushed to the forefront. CM Punk was like the black sheep then, man, but he was straight edge and he looked like CM Punk. So there's Punk. He got his shot. Without that, maybe we wouldn't get to see CM Punk. Punk did his shit and made it awesome, and got so much better over the years and became one of the best characters they've had in forever. So to answer your question, Matt, is it a direct result? Not necessarily, because that's how it used to be, but it certainly did affect for a few years until they felt like the heat was off, and then everybody got back on the shit. Then they got back off the shit till they felt the heat was off. Now some people question certain body types like a Jinder Mahal or Goldberg or Brock Lesnar, and it is what it is. It's wrestling.
Great insight there. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I am Matthew Shaver. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Matthew_Shaver. Check out my brand new podcast, Suck My Balls, Season 2, Episode 9, number 23, Chocolate Salty Balls, the cult classic of Chef. You can check that out. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, Matthew_Shaver. You can check out the Impact Attack, which is up myself, Ben Hamin. The new Force Order podcast, which I just produced, is now available as well. Of course, you can check out Ben Hamin by going to ProWrestlingTees.com/Ben Hamin infidels, and go to ProWrestlingTees.com/BWOStevie, SCG shirts, and Greek God Papadon. Silvio, where can the people inquire, or where should Charlotte Flair contact Jenna Van Muscle so she can look just like her?
Ooh, suck on my chocolate salty balls. Put them in your mouth.
Put them in your mouth.
Such a great song. Yeah, check me out on, well, since you mentioned Jenna, she's on Patreon at patreon.com/Van Muscles. She just uploaded a bunch of dope content. What I'm most excited about working on right now is I've been doing a lot of one-on-one character development sessions. I've been working with wrestlers all over the world, and I'm just helping them to either create from scratch a gimmick for them or enhance their gimmick, figure out how to work it in the ring, what their promo sounds like, what their look looks like, finding their voice as a performer. And it's been really rewarding to help these guys because I get so many people that come in. It took me 10 years to find out who I was, so I get it. I know from fucking experience, It's like a world champion baseball player coming back to fucking coach Little League. He knows what he's talking about. I've been in these guys' shoes, so I could tell them this is how you do it. And it's awesome seeing what they're doing. So I know we have a lot of people in the wrestling community that listen to our stuff. Hit me up. I'd be happy to work with you guys. I'll work with managers too. I don't want to do like commentary because that's not my expertise. Hit up Timmy Baltimore, Brent Herring for that. But if you're a wrestler or a manager, I'd love to help you. My Patreon has been going fucking off the shelves lately. That is patreon.com/Superstar Wrestling Network. I've got a bunch of deep dives, some cool podcasts. I recently just put out about a 2-hour episode that features the one and only Jim Cornette, talking all kinds of stuff about wrestling, his philosophies, his time in Ring of Honor, the battles he had there, my time in Ring of Honor. I even posted a lengthy interview about my personal experiences there and the time that Jay Lethal almost broke my neck. Little spoiler, if you want to hear the rest of the story, check it out. So it's good shit. That's patreon.com/Superstar Wrestling Network. At the Chris Silvio, and Chris Silvio on Facebook, Superstar Seminars on Facebook. That's all I got, Matty. I'm blown up.
All right, well, hopefully I can do this justice. That's right, infidels. When that's going to be a wrap here on Like the Feels, right here on hackerhamin.podbean.com. And you know where it is, so come on back tomorrow for the Friday Locker Room for your headline rundown with BWO Stevie. And look out for the Conspiracy Horseman on twitch.tv/Conspiracy Horseman. YOLA.
The laugh was good. You got the laugh part down.